Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast. BBOR, Black Box Online Radio. It is now September 2018, and on October 24th, we are going to be approaching the anniversary of the disappearance of Joan Risch, all the way back from 1961. And now this anniversary is just over 1 month away, so I've been thinking about doing some more uploads on the case of Joan Risch. Now, I've done several already, so I don't think we have to go over everything piece by piece. And again, let's just jump right into some new developments. Well, I was discussing this case with Carla, someone whom I've corresponded a lot with about this, and just, through the comment sections here on these YouTube videos. And we got to the notion of the beer bottles that were found in Joan Risch's house. And almost every major source, says a certain narrative about Joan Risch and the beer bottles. What they sort of say is that Martin Risch accounted for everything in the house. He said absolutely was nothing out of place. There was nothing there that he could not, account for, with the exception of 4 beer bottles. In most accounts, it just says that, there were beer bottles in the house, but one of them gives a very specific number. It says that Martin saw 4 beer bottles that he just could not account for. He wasn't sure where they came from or what they were doing there. There was a bottle of hard liquor in the house that was emptied, just like the empty glass bottle, and he said that he had been drinking that with his wife the night before, but he did not know where the bottles were. And it's like, this is something that has been spammed out to so many different places around the internet, like lifedaily.com said something about that. We also had, true crime articles, truecrimearticles.com, that's just the name of the website, other blogs, and, Web Sleuths got into discussion on this, but I really stay away from things like Reddit and Web Sleuths when I'm composing these uploads, because I often find that, some other people can kind of be sending you down the wrong road. I really try to find some more of the, what's the word? The articles from the press, rather, and then, I try to begin theorizing that way. However, Carla just gave me the suggestion, I asked her, literally, what do you think about that? And she said that she had a newspaper article which stated that the beer bottles were actually accounted for by Martin Risch, that he knew where these things came from, and that that is sort of just kind of like a misprint, or it is an inaccurate statement that Martin did not know where these things were. The thing about the beer bottles is, from what Carla describes she read in this article, is that he said that they consumed the beer when they had guests over a few nights prior, and if that is true, I think that maybe the miscommunication could be something such as, maybe he meant to say that, he did not know that they were still there, or that he was saying that he had not drunken them, he had not consumed them the night before with Joan, but, that they were something much older. But yeah, all the, just the mainstream articles really seem to focus in on that, and the reason I decided to do an entire upload on this segment is, this just goes to show you the nature of, when you're getting involved with a particular case, going through a lot of the different things, everything keeps changing. I've mentioned that I used to be a fan of the Missing Maura Murray podcast with Lance and Tim, and it was just like, one of the biggest reasons why I stopped listening was because everything in the narrative just kept changing. So, you begin to theorize, and you're like, oh my gosh. They would just have to say, hey, okay, wait a second. It turns out, actually, that's not true, because... And that's, what I've got going on with Joan Risch. Missy Beavers is another case that I covered on this channel quite a bit, actually. I've done at least 7 uploads on the case of Missy Beavers, and it's like, that one even, everyone was saying, that she was killed by puncture wounds. We had Nancy Grace on national television saying, they were puncture wounds, not stab wounds, couldn't have been a knife. But then, we got something like the search warrant, says that there is a, she was killed by a handgun, It's like the information really changes a lot when it comes to these cases about what is available to us in the public. And, it's just, it's difficult. It's difficult to really try and compose, a narrative with any of this, because things are always changing. And, motivations for things like on this channel are to theorize and to put out ideas and to try and understand a situation. But let's get on to the discussion on the beer bottles, because I've mentioned it a lot on this channel, and I mentioned how beer is used in a wide range of homemade abortions. Well, this is the disappearance of Joan Risch. Abortion and hemorrhage and things of that nature are very, very widely discussed. And, I also entertained the possibility that Joan got herself intoxicated so that she might have been self-inflicting the wound. This was back when I was entertaining the staged disappearance theory, which is a very famous Joan Risch theory, it's one of the absolute largest out there. They think that's what happened to her, that she staged this disappearance, hence the mystery novels from the library and all the books she had been reading. So I entertained the possibility that she had tried to get herself intoxicated so she could inflict a wound, and she would be able to, to be as gruesome as this sounds, to bleed out without feeling a lot of pain, she wouldn't have been able to inflict a wound to her own body if she hadn't been, numbed up from the intoxication. I'm kind of putting the staged disappearance theory on hold for now. I'm not saying that it's impossible, because, when I did a video once called Joan Risch Conclusion, I was really down that pathway. I was just this is something that it feels like, everything, none of the clues make sense. Maybe one of the reasons that none of them make sense is because somebody was interfering with them. They were deliberately staged. But when I was discussing with Carla in the comments section, it's she brought up the possibility that Joan Risch's daughter Lillian entered the house, and was not around any other adults. Was it possible that Lillian had, tried to clean up the blood and, just, didn't tell anyone? Yes, I do think that is possible. And that could also account for maybe if she came into contact with some of the blood, why the blood evidence is so confusing, why the investigators are just why is there, a drop of blood evidence on the center of the, what was it, the, the front of a car is called a hood, the metal part above the trunk, I guess there was one drop there, there were drops of blood in the baby's bedroom. They found that was confusing, and also no bloody footprints, and Carla was suggesting that Lillian might have removed whatever, or interfered with anything, if there had been a bloody footprint. Possibly, I mean, the flat-out answer is, I don't know, but I would definitely say that it is very likely that someone was interfering with something, and that's why the clues don't always make sense in the disappearance of Joan Risch, and that's why people have, just been going into this since 1961, trying to understand what was going on. But we're going to go back to the beer bottles. I mean, to me, it would sound so much more plausible if what Carla had written about Martin Risch was true, that he did know where the beer bottles were from, that he was just they weren't from the night before, but they were from a few previous nights when we had guests over. I think that would make a lot of sense, and that would answer a lot of questions. And that's also cutting out a lot of the assumptions. That's basically just sort of saying, yeah, that, there's absolutely nothing weird about this. I just had, the beer bottle thing had just been at the center point out of a lot of my theories. I mean, it just stood out to me as something that was so creepy and something so... Well, it stood out as one of the largest clues, because it's when you read this line, it's on the Wikipedia page even, that Martin Risch, could not account for the beer bottles that were found in his house. It was well, that meant that Joan was hiding something. If that statement were true, that would mean that Joan was hiding something. And it's well, what was she hiding? And we talked about a couple things. Beer is used in a wide range of homemade abortions. I thought you just ingested it, by drinking it, but one of the people that I mentioned in the Joan Risch True Crime Q&A said that it actually has to be applied to the uterus. And I was just I'll take your word for it. No comment on that. This isn't really my medical area. So that's that. That's all I'll say about that. And but the point is, beer is used in a wide range of homemade abortions. I also entertained the possibility that when Joan Risch's neighbors saw her walking from the car with outstretched arms and carrying something red, I entertained that could have been the beer bottle. She had gone to the car to get the beer. And when you think of red, like Budweiser, Red Stripe, could be various other things. Something red. I thought that might have been the time she went to pick up the beer bottles to enter the house. But if Martin Risch has accounted for that, that would mean that it could be something else. And we've had a discussion on this on the Joan Risch True Crime Q&A, where it's just like, that's kind of just a bizarre statement, and I think that's kind of an ambiguous claim, and we don't necessarily know what the neighbors saw, and someone might have been encouraging her to say some stuff like that. Well, going back to this beer bottle thing, the explanation that it's just that Martin Risch knew what these things were, I think that is so much simpler. And, it is possible that, these websites are just spamming around some inaccurate information. Yeah, maybe. Maybe it's possible, because that happens so much in true crime. We talked about Maura Murray and Missy Beavers, and, that stuff, it happens. There are some things there are pieces of inaccurate information that get pushed around unintentionally, mind you. I don't think that everyone who is writing this thing out is lying. I think, it's sort of the whole Wikipedia generation. It's about what you can cite, not necessarily what is 100% factual. And I think that, that in true crime we get caught up a lot in that. And also, if one source puts out something that is inaccurate, then, that ends up on Wikipedia, and after Wikipedia, everybody puts it out there. All the YouTubers, were saying that they couldn't account for these 4 beer bottles that were found in the trash, and it's well, I'm really rethinking a lot of things right now, because I do think the explanation that Martin knew about it is a much simpler one. However, though, if Joan had been hiding something, why on earth would you... I don't know. I guess it's not the craziest thing in the world if you just went to a supermarket and you want to get drunk at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're only human, right? If your husband's away on a business trip, maybe something like that. But, just what a lot of people were pushing down real fast before we go is just that, they were saying that they also thought that there had been a man in the house and that Joan was having an affair, and he came over because Martin Risch was out of town and they were drinking beer together and something happened. Or they think that there was somebody else in the house. And I don't really go down that route. I either looked at this as, Joan was involved using the beer in some sort of home-concocted abortion, or she was trying to get intoxicated and she cut herself. But I say that was one of the largest alternative theories out there, that Joan was having an affair, and she was drinking beer with the man she was having an affair with. But I don't personally entertain that. I'm just throwing it out there. That's just a possibility that people have put forth, over time. And, well, we're going to keep doing some uploads on the case of Joan Risch as we approach the anniversary in October. And if you want to follow this case a little more, stay tuned. And if you have anything to say at all, please drop a comment below so we can discuss things a little further. Okay? That's all for me now. Until next time.